Rayo A. NeNe leaks son Bryson missing amid drug troubles. RHOA alum, NeNe leaks son, Bryson Bryant, has gone missing amid drug troubles. He apparently has been gone for some time, but this is the first that has been reported on it. So when was the last time Bryson was seen, and what is known thus far? Keep reading for more details. NeNe leaks son Bryson missing amid drug troubles. It has not been the easiest time for NeNe Leakes, as she has lost her husband, Greg Leakes. He passed away in 2021 from colon cancer. Though the two had a rough marriage, they were able to find their way back to one another, and losing him was very hard. RHOA fans had come to know and love Greg, and could not see NeNe with anyone but him. Along with that, their son, Brent, had a bevy of heart issues. He suffered a stroke and congestive heart failure at the tender age of 23. Luckily, he received a heart transplant and went on to lose 100 pounds. That helped him kickstart his life all over again. Then, there was NeNe's oldest son, Bryson Bryant. He was arrested in the summer of 2023. When he was initially pulled over, he used his brother's name. Furthermore, Bryson was in possession of fentanyl, which he claimed he was unaware of. In order to get a lesser charge, he agreed to take officers to the dealer's home. Bryson was held behind bars until October, and was ultimately sentenced to 12 months probation, a $500 fine, and 40 hours of community service. Now, according to In Touch Weekly, Bryson cannot be located. Per an affidavit, his probation officer has tried to locate NeNe Leakes' son twice, once on August 14th and the other time on September 30th. He even tried to call him on his cell phone, to no avail. That was when he checked the jail logs to see if Bryson had been arrested, but he had not. A letter was ultimately sent to Bryson's home, but, as of October 3rd, nothing has been heard or updated. NeNe knows of her son's struggles but does not know what to do. At a loss. When Bryson was arrested, NeNe Leakes was at a loss as to what to do with her son. She had already been through it with Greg and Brent, so this was just pushing her over the edge. NeNe said this of her son and his struggles. So NeNe has taken a step back from her son and is allowing him to do what he needs to. However, she has not yet spoken out on the current situation of him being MIA. At this point, she likely won't address it, and that is fine. Hopefully, Bryson will be located and everything is fine with him. This would be just too much for any parent to take. The crisp Atlanta morning was pierced by the insistent chirping of NeNe Leakes' phone. She glanced at the caller ID, her heart skipping a beat as the name Malcolm appeared, her attorney. The warmth of her morning coffee turned cold in her hand as she answered, the dread she'd been suppressing since the call she received last night creeping back in. "NeNe, any updates on Bryson?" Malcolm asked, his voice edged with concern. "No," she said, her voice trembling despite her usual bravado. "I've called everyone I know. I even drove by that motel on Piedmont where he was last seen." Her hands tightened around the coffee mug, nails digging into the ceramic. "Nothing. He's vanished." Bryson, her eldest son, had always been the wild card of her life. Beneath his charm and infectious smile lay a darkness that had grown heavier over the years. Drug troubles, minor arrests, and a crowd that seemed to pull him further from his family had left NeNe battling, not just to save her son, but to keep herself from breaking under the weight of it all. A mother's worst fear. The night before, she had received the call that no parent ever wanted. A frantic voice on the other end, one of Bryson's friends, muttered something about a relapse, about Bryson disappearing after an argument over money. It wasn't the first time he'd gone off the radar, but this time felt different. There was an eerie finality in the friend's voice, an unspoken fear that sent NeNe into overdrive. Hours had passed since then. NeNe had called Greg's brother, Bryson's cousins, and even some of her old contacts in the entertainment world, hoping someone might have seen him, but Bryson had left no trail. She glanced at the framed photo of him on the mantel, taken years ago during happier times. He had his arms slung around his little brother, Brent, both boys laughing as if the world could never touch them. That was before the addiction, before the secrets, before the strain on their once unbreakable bond. "Where are you, baby?" she whispered into the stillness of her living room. The past resurfaces. Later that day, NeNe found herself at an old diner Bryson used to frequent. The place was as run down as she remembered, the kind of spot where regulars nursed coffee for hours and swapped stories about lives long past their glory days. "Ms. Leeks," a voice called from the corner booth. It was Jerome, a man who had once been Bryson's closest friend, and more importantly, one of the few people NeNe trusted in his chaotic world. She slid into the booth across from him, her large sunglasses barely concealing the exhaustion on her face. "What do you know, Jerome?" He hesitated, his fingers tracing patterns on the tabletop. "Bryson's been running with some bad people, real bad. I told him to get out, but," he sighed, shaking his head, "he didn't listen. Last I heard, he owed someone a lot of money. I think he was scared." NeNe. Her chest tightened. "Scared enough to run?" Jerome nodded. "Maybe. But with the crowd he's been around, I don't know if he got far." A family fractured. Back home, NeNe sat with Brent, who had been uncharacteristically quiet since the news broke. He stared at the floor, his usual playfulness replaced by a somberness that made him seem years older. "Mom," he finally said, "do you think Bryson's okay?" NeNe's heart broke at the question. How could she reassure one son when she didn't have answers about the other? "I don't know, baby," she said softly, pulling him into a hug. "But we're going to do everything we can to find him." Brent pulled back, his eyes glistening. I wish he would talk to me. Before, we were so close, and now it's like he doesn't even see me anymore." "Addiction does that," NeNe said, stroking his hair. "It makes people blind to the ones who love them most. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. He's just lost right now." The media storm. As if the emotional toll wasn't enough, the story of Bryson's disappearance hit the media within hours. Paparazzi camped outside NeNe's home, their cameras flashing every time she stepped outside. The hashtags #FindBryson and #PrayForNeNe trended on social media, with fans and critics alike weighing in on her family drama. NeNe Leeks' son missing amid drug troubles. One headline screamed, accompanied by an unflattering photo of Bryson during one of his lower points. The scrutiny was suffocating. For years, NeNe had built her brand on being outspoken and unshakable, the queen of Bravo's Real Housewives of Atlanta, but behind the bravado was a mother crumbling under the weight of her son's struggles. A glimmer of hope days turned into an agonizing week with no word from Bryson. NeNe barely slept, surviving on coffee and sheer determination. Then, late one evening, her phone buzzed. It was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello," she answered, her voice wary. "Ms. Leeks?" The voice on the other end was hesitant but familiar. "It's Marcus from the shelter downtown. Bryson showed up here tonight. He's not in great shape, but he's safe." Relief flooded her body, and she fought back tears. "Thank you," she managed to say. "I'll be there as soon as I can." A fragile reunion. When NeNe arrived at the shelter, her heart raced as she spotted Bryson sitting in a corner, his head bowed. He looked thinner, his clothes disheveled, and his eyes carried a haunted look she hadn't seen before. But he was alive. "Bryson," she said softly, approaching him. He looked up, and for a moment, she saw the boy he used to be, before life had hardened him. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. She pulled him into a hug, holding him tightly as tears streamed down her face. "Don't you ever scare me like that again," she whispered. "We'll get through this. Together." The road ahead, the reunion was bittersweet. While Bryson was safe, the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. NeNe knew it wouldn't be easy, but as she sat beside her son that night, she felt a renewed sense of hope. For all the glamour and drama that had defined her public persona, NeNe Leeks was, at her core, a mother. And she would fight for her son with every ounce of strength she had.